Let's add another voice to the conversation. Tom Miesner, co-author of Oil and Gas Pipelines in Non-Technical Language. That's his book. He's managed pipelines for big firms like Conoco, now teaches about them at his own firm. Tom joins us via Skype from the Houston area. Thank you for coming on with us, and hello from New York.
Hello, Brian. My pleasure to be here.
Tell us about pipelines like this. Are they labor-intensive, short and long-term, and how do you see the environmental risk?
Well, there's definitely a lot more people that are required when the pipeline is being built than when it's being operated. So you have people that are welding the pipelines, spreading the pipes out. Once the pipeline is built, it's fairly capital intensive and not very labor intensive.
Are they already everywhere? The country is already laced with pipelines, probably much more than most Americans realize, correct?
There are quite a number of pipelines across the U.S., around 300,000 miles of natural gas pipelines, a little bit over 160,000 miles of oil pipelines made of crude oil, refined products, and then highly volatile liquids like propane and butane and ethane.
We have on our screen, I don't know if you can see it, a map of oil pipelines existing or proposed around the United States. This is your map, isn't it?
It's a map that was extracted from one of my training classes. I wasn't the one that originally put together the map, and no, I'm afraid I can't see it on the screen.
So, viewers, the black line that starts up in Western Canada and proceeds diagonally down to the right, all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico, to the right of Texas, that black line is the proposed Keystone oil pipeline. But Tom, I see that some of it is solid black and some of it is dotted black. How come?
That's right. The dotted black are actually the phases that are proposed, and the solid line is a line that's already been built and it's in existence and in operation right now. So it runs down into Cushing, Oklahoma.
What's all the blue?
The blue are other pipelines that are running across the U.S., major lines that have been there, either new lines or lines that have been there for some period of time.
How about the red?
The red, I don't remember what the key is on that. I don't have the map here in front of me.
All right, and the yellow, I believe, is other proposed oil pipelines. So I guess if Keystone goes through, we're going to be seeing other Canada all the way south through the United States kinds of lines. With your experience in the business, do you think Americans are too worried about the environmental impact of pipelines?
You know, Brian, I've just pulled the picture or the drawing up, and so let me just add, the red lines are basically import lines coming in from Canada with Canadian crude. The yellow lines, there you can see that they're bracketed, and two of the lines say proposed, and they're pointing to those bracketed areas which bracket the dotted black line and the other dotted black line that's closer to the Gulf Coast.
So that pipeline from Canada, red, we see it over around Vancouver and Trans Mountain, goes all the way to New York State. That's a heck of a pipeline system.
There are lines that have come down from Canada for a number of years with the production up there, first of conventional crude oil and now the tar sands. So yeah, it's been operating for many years, and most of that is the Enbridge system.
And of course, at a certain point, we heard about the Exxon Valdez oil spill. That was a tanker sitting offshore. I don't remember ever hearing about a big Alaska oil pipeline spill. So again, do you think that Americans are too worried about the pipeline, or what would you say to assess the risk from your point of view?
Anytime you have something built by people, there's a risk of a failure. So there have been pipeline failures. I think when you look at it, we need to have pipelines in order to move crude oil, refined products, natural gas that all of us want, so we can travel and we can stay warm and enjoy our standard of living. And so with that, we do take the risk of having leaks from time to time. And the industry is working hard to reduce the number of leaks and has reduced the number of leaks over time.
Are you pro Keystone yourself?
I don't think I'll take a stand on Keystone. I am pro driving and flying and staying warm. We do have a lot of crude oil up in Canada that needs to come down to the U.S. or some market in some manner, and Keystone is one of the projects that are out there that could make that happen.
Now, Tom Miesner, stay there, and you're very reassuring for the most part, but to environmentalists, is the Keystone Pipeline dangerous to the land and rivers it would cross? Susan Casey-Lefkowitz directs the international program at the NRDC, the Natural Resources Defense Council. She joins us via Skype from Washington, D.C. And hello to you from New York.
Hello.
So what is the risk as you see it?
Well, the risk is several-fold. First of all, we're dealing with a different kind of pipeline than we're used to. Tar sands is not conventional oil. It's a thick, gooey substance that has to be pumped through a pipeline at high pressure. It's more corrosive. It leads to leaks more easily. And once it leaks, it's harder to clean up. But even more than that, when you strip mine and drill tar sands out of the earth from under the boreal forest in Alberta, it's very energy intensive, has a lot higher greenhouse gas emissions that cause climate change, it uses up a lot of water, it's very polluting, there's a lot of downstream health impacts from the extraction and from burning it in refineries. So there's essentially a lot of downsides to tar sands, and for this Keystone XL pipeline, what we're looking at is downsides without many upsides, since the main purpose of this pipeline is for the oil industry to be able to have a big international port for export overseas of tar sands, not for it actually to stay here in the U.S.
So Tom Miesner, what were you thinking as you heard that? Both her characterization of the environmental risk and whether this is really meant as a port operation to ship oil overseas rather than to even stay here in the United States.
That's the first time I've heard about the export claim, if you will. I do know that the crude oil that's produced up in that area could potentially go down to Vancouver for export to China and Asia Pacific. But as I understand it, most of this crude oil that's coming down, or all as far as I know, is coming down to be refined in the U.S. And so I don't think it's, while it is being built by pipeline companies in support of oil production, if there wasn't a need or a desire to have oil from all of us, we wouldn't need to build pipelines. So we have to sort of learn how to coexist with all the infrastructure that's necessary to support our way of living.
Tom, thank you very much for joining us in this conversation.